At some point, the work will speak louder than you ever could. Not today, not this month, but it will. And when it does, remember this moment, the one where you chose to begin.
You've spent too long trying to be understood. You explain your mood. You explain your tone. You explain your silence. And still, they don't get it. Worse, the more you talk, the less they respect. Because the man who over-explains is the man who doubts himself. And everyone feels that doubt. You think you're being noble, clear, fair. But all they hear is noise, weakness, permission to push back. Let me be direct. If you keep explaining your standards, they're not standards. They're suggestions. And suggestions get ignored. You apologize for setting boundaries. You justify saying no. You give long reasons for protecting your peace. And what does it get you? Disrespect, confusion, manipulation. People learn one thing. You can be talked out of anything. Because you don't hold your ground. You narrateit. You want to be liked. You want to be seen as reasonable. You want people to know you mean well. But none of that matters. You're not here to be interpreted. You're here to be effective. There's no medal for being the most understood man in the room. But there's power in being the most clear. And clarity doesn't explain itself. It declares itself. Look at the men who move with weight. They don't give speeches. They give direction. They don't ask to be understood. They make decisions and leave no space for debate. And when they speak once. Then they act. Then they leave. That's power. Every time you explain yourself, you lower your signal and raise the noise. You dilute your message. You train people to ignore your first answer because they know a softer one is coming if they push. You're teaching people to wait you out, to talk you down, to test your lines until they bend. And you're letting it happen because you'd rather be liked than firm, heard than respected, comfortable than clean. But that comfort is killing your edge. And without an edge, you're forgettable. Let that settle for a second. You become invisible when you explain too much. Because no one remembers the man who negotiated his own position down to zero. You think they didn't understand you. But they did. They just didn't believe you. Because belief comes from conviction. And conviction doesn't explain, it acts. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't waste time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That wasn't advice. That was an order. An order you've ignored every time you begged for validation. So here's a new order. Say less. Mean more. Move first. You don't need to justify your peace. You don't need to narrate your values. You don't need to preface your strength. You need to stop leaking power through words that don't matter. You are not a spokesperson. You are not a negotiator for your own mind. You are not a philosopher in a debate club. You are a man. You lead with what you tolerate. You speak through what you allow. You are respected for what you don't explain. Make your presence loud. Make your silence sharp. Make your decisions final. And when they ask for more, don't give them words. Give them the space to watch what you become without needing to say a thing. You owe them nothing, but you owe yourself discipline. Start today. Stop justifying your needs. You say, "I just need time." You say, "I'm not trying to be rude." You say, "I hope that's okay." But what you're really saying is, "Please approve of my boundaries." And that's where your power leaks. You think you're being polite. You think you're being reasonable. But what you're actually doing is asking for permission. Read that again. You're not setting limits. You're asking if it's okay to have any. Let's be clear. A man who justifies everything is a man who's forgotten that he doesn't need to be liked. He needs to be solid. You're not here to defend your peace like it's some fragile excuse. You're here to enforce it like a rule. But instead of owning your values, you walk into rooms and present them like suggestions. Soft, flexible, negotiable. I hope you understand. I didn't mean to come off that way. I just need a little space. No, you need space. You need focus. You need silence. You don't need to explain why. Because people who respect themselves don't ask for clearance. They build discipline, and that discipline speaks for them. Let me ask you something. Do wolves justify their instincts? Do leaders explain their vision to every doubter? Do warriors apologize for holding the line? No. They move with internal clarity. They don't ask. They decide. You've spent years trying to be the good guy, the calm one, the easy to work with one. But all that bought you is confusion, fatigue, and disrespect. Because every time you justified your needs, you trained the world to ignore them. And now you wonder why you feel resentful. Why no one listens the first time. Why people keep crossing lines. Simple. You told them your boundaries were optional. You dressed them in maybe. You whispered them with a smile. You wrapped them in permission-seeking language. And they believed you. You trained them to ignore your clarity. And now you have none. But it's not too late. You can reset the whole system today. It starts with 3 words. No more justification. You don't explain your peace. You don't pre-frame your silence. You don't give a PowerPoint on why you're unavailable. You speak. You move. You execute. The explanation is the action. The proof is in your pace. The reason is in your presence. And if someone doesn't like it, good. Let them leave. Because the moment you stop justifying, you start filtering. You stop attracting people who want to debate your standards. And you start building with people who rise to meet them. Now here's the stoic part. You don't do this with anger. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to make a point. You just stop explaining your rules like they're requests. You own them. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Let me simplify that. Stop bending yourself to accommodate what's outside of you. Start aligning with what's inside. Your time? Yours. Your mental space? Yours. Your rhythm, your solitude, your standards? All yours. Not because you fought for them, but because you stopped asking. Let this be your new standard. Speak once. Mean every word. Say nothing that needs approval. And when someone pushes you to explain your calm, smile. Say nothing. And hold your ground like it's the only home you've got. Because it is. Now walk like that. Stop hoping to be understood. That need inside you, the one that wants people to get you, feel you, align with you, kill it. It's the most dangerous weakness a man can carry. You want people to see your heart, to recognize your struggle, to understand the why behind your decisions. But you forgot something. Nobody is required to understand you. Not your friends. Not your family. Not your partner. Not your boss. Not even the people who claim to love you. The moment you start building your life around being understood, you've already surrendered control. You think explanation earns empathy. But in reality, it earns resistance. Because people don't hear what you mean. They hear what suits them. What confirms their fears. What lets them stay comfortable. And when your clarity threatens that comfort, they won't understand. They'll resist. They'll question your tone. They'll twist your words. They'll act confused, not because they don't get it, but because they don't want to. And you'll waste hours, days, years trying to explain. Stop. You're not here to be decoded. You're not here to be emotionally translated by people who can't read themselves. You're here to move forward with brutal precision. You're here to execute, not narrate. You think that being misunderstood means you failed to communicate. Wrong. It usually means you've grown. And people who haven't grown with you won't get it. Don't slow down to carry them. Don't shrink to stay readable. Let them misunderstand you. Let them label you cold. Let them say you changed. Let them think what they want. Because they will anyway. Your job is not to be digestible. Your job is to be disciplined. To hold your course when everyone else is still begging to be liked. To make moves that confuse weak men. To build systems that scare the lazy. To walk through fog while they wait for directions. You think leaders are understood? They're not. They're doubted. Judged. Feared. Misquoted. And they keep moving anyway. They don't explain their silence. They don't defend their rules. They don't ask for space to focus. They take it. And they let others assume what they want. So here's your new rule. No more asking to be seen right. No more oversharing. No more clarifying things that don't need to be clarified. If someone can't read your energy, they don't belong in your plans. If someone needs you to repeat your standard 3 times, they're not built for your world. You're not a podcast. You're not a manual. You're not here to soften reality into something they like. You're a structure, and structures don't talk. They stand. Hold your edge. Say it once. Say it direct. And walk. If they get it, good. If they don't, perfect. Because in misunderstanding, the weak walk away. And only the clear remain. You don't need to be understood. You need to be undeniable. Be so consistent that people stop asking. Be so direct that your absence is louder than their noise. Be so stable that their confusion bounces off your silence. This is how men build presence. Not with poetry, with precision. Now stop hoping and move. Stop softening your standards. Every time you bend your rule to keep someone around, you break something inside yourself. Every time you say it's fine when it's not, you kill trust in your own voice. Every time you adjust your line just to be easier to love, you teach the world to treat you like a doormat. You think you're being flexible. You think you're showing compassion. You think compromise keeps the peace. It doesn't. It kills the edge you worked so hard to build. Your standards are not decorations. They're defense systems. They're proof that you've been through enough pain to say never again. They are the walls that keep chaos out and self-respect in. So why are you so quick to lower them? You want connection. You want approval. You want to be liked more than you want to be stable. That's the disease. You hand your standards to people who didn't earn them. You give discounts on what should be non-negotiable. You change your diet, your schedule, your sleep, your mission, just to stay close to people who wouldn't lift a finger to meet you halfway. And then you wonder why you feel anxious. Why you feel off. Why you don't respect yourself the way you used to. Simple. Because you keep betraying the man you promised to become. One softened standard at a time. One skipped workout. One tolerated insult. One ignored gut feeling. One, it's probably not that serious. You're not falling apart. You're being eaten from within by your own excuses. Your standards are not for show. They are survival. You want people to treat you better? Start treating your rules like law. You want peace in your mind? Start protecting your time like it's sacred. You want self-respect? Then stop softening, because softening becomes a habit. And that habit becomes identity. And identity becomes a cage you can't explain. You just feel it every time you lie to yourself. Here's the truth. Strong men aren't respected because they yell. They're respected because they hold the line, even when it costs them connection. You want people to respect you? Then stop rewarding disrespect with tolerance. You want to be trusted? Then stop being inconsistent with what you say matters. You want to stop feeling used? Then stop handing out access to people who only come around when it's convenient. No more deals with your doubts. No more second chances for your peace. You are not a diplomat. You are not a fixer. You are not here to adjust every time someone reacts poorly to your clarity. You are the man who sets the terms and lives by them, no matter who walks away. This is what it means to become solid. You don't adapt to moods. You don't tailor your values to the vibe of the room. You don't let emotions vote on your direction. You lead. And if that makes you colder, so be it. Cold is clean. Cold is sharp. Cold is how diamonds form. You don't soften steel. You forge it. You don't lower the gate. You raise the cost to enter. You don't make your standards fit others. You raise your standards until they fit the future version of you, and only those built for that man will stay. So from now on, no more shrinking. No more bending. No more just this once. Your standards are the boundary between who you are and who you promise to become. Guard that line like your life depends on it. Because it does. Stop being available to chaos. You're not burned out. You're not overstimulated. You're not broken. You're just wide open to things that don't matter. You answer every call. You read every message. You react to every tone shift, sigh, comment, post, drama. You call it empathy. But it's addiction. Addiction to noise. To being included. To staying in touch. You know what that really means? You have no filter. No firewall. No discipline. You're a man with open gates in a city that needs defending. And chaos loves an open man. It floods your mind with gossip. Fills your space with emotional trash. Hijacks your time with situations that aren't yours to carry. You say you're exhausted? Of course you are. You let everyone's panic enter your bloodstream. You absorb the weather of the week. You respond to low-frequency people like it's your job to fix them. It's not. Your job is to protect your mind like a military zone. But instead, you let civilians run through it all day with their opinions, projections, requests, insecurities, and unresolved patterns. And you answer them. Like you owe them access. Like your peace is public property. It's not. Let this land clearly. Availability is not kindness. It's exposure. Every minute you give to the wrong thing subtracts a minute from your purpose. And you can't afford that anymore. You've got too much to build. Too much to repair. Too much to become. You think real men are reactive? No. Real men are unreachable to chaos. They filter noise like a soldier filters distractions before pulling the trigger. They pick their targets. They guard their energy. They know exactly who gets access and who doesn't. You're still explaining your piece. Still apologizing for your silence. Still giving explanations to people who never earned your time in the first place. It ends now. Start treating your space like a fortress. Your phone shouldn't be a live wire. It should be a tool. Your mind, not a social plaza. A war room. Your presence, not for randoms. For those who earned it and respect it. You don't need to be cruel. Just unavailable. Unavailable to panic. To drama. To moods. To passive aggression. To emergencies that aren't your responsibility. If they need you, they can schedule it. If it's not your mission, don't pick it up. If it's not building you, it's draining you. And if they call you cold, perfect. Cold men stay calm. Cold men stay clear. Cold men survive while others drown in reaction. You've spent too long being emotionally online 24/7. Always accessible. Always responding. Always managing someone else's chaos before your own clarity. It ends today. You owe nobody your bandwidth. You owe nobody your nervous system. You owe nobody access to your focused hours. You are not a therapist. You are not a sponge. You are not a noise collector. You are a builder. You are a shield. You are a sovereign system. And sovereign systems don't react to everything. They move when it's time. They execute without drama. They defend only what's sacred. Be that. From now on, you don't explain your silence. You don't argue with panic. You don't open your gate for people just because they knock. You keep it locked. And you keep moving. You're not angry. You're unavailable. And that's your power now. Stop lowering the bar to be accepted. You think if you soften your strength, they'll let you in. If you make your standards easier to meet, they'll stick around. If you tolerate more, smile more, shrink more, they'll finally like you. And maybe they will. But only for a moment. Then they'll forget you. Because you made yourself forgettable. You killed your presence in the name of acceptance. You watered yourself down just enough to be tolerable. You became quiet enough, soft enough, reasonable enough to be safe. And now you're invisible. They don't admire you. They don't respect you. They don't fear losing you. Because you made sure you were always available, always reachable, always agreeable. That's not connection. That's erosion. You didn't build a relationship. You built a version of yourself that could be digested without discomfort. You want to be accepted? Then don't shrink. Don't bend. Don't apologize for your height just because someone else is sitting down. People respect clarity, not convenience. Lowering the bar to keep others close only teaches them one thing. You'll change your rules when pressured. You'll dull your edge if they flinch. You'll soften your tone if they hesitate. And from that moment on, your value drops. Because your boundaries aren't boundaries. They're invitations to negotiate. Your time isn't sacred. It's accessible. Your presence isn't earned. It's on sale. And worst of all, your identity isn't stable. It's shaped by external moods. You think that's kindness. You think it's flexibility. But what it really is fear. Fear that if you held the line, you'd be left behind. Fear that if you stayed solid, you'd end up alone. But listen to this, the man who is willing to be alone is the man who becomes undeniable. He doesn't chase acceptance. He becomes the standard. He walks with such focus that others rise to match it. Or vanish trying. You want power? Then raise the bar. Keep it there. And let people disqualify themselves. Stop managing their reactions. Stop cushioning your truth. Stop holding back so they can feel tall next to you. You were not built to be accepted by everyone. You were built to be respected by the right ones. And that only happens when you hold the bar. Even when it gets quiet. Even when you lose people. Even when it's lonely. Let them fall off. Let them label you difficult, distant, intense. Let them call you arrogant for not bending. Because they're not used to people who lead. They're used to people who beg. You're not here to beg. You're here to become undeniable. And you don't get that by lowering your standard. You get that by raising it higher than most are willing to reach. And then guarding it with silence. So from now on, no more apologizing for being too much. No more filtering your fire. No more pre-editing your power to fit their capacity. Let them stretch. Let them reach. Let them rise or exit. But you don't move the bar for anyone anymore. Stop asking for peace in a loud world. You won't find it. You won't stumble upon it. And you definitely won't get it by asking. Because the world isn't designed for your peace. It's designed to sell your attention, to monetize your mind, to keep you emotionally available for everything but yourself. Scroll, react, buy, perform, compare. That's the loop. And you're still looking for a quiet corner in a building wired for noise. You think peace will arrive when things calm down, when work eases up, when they finally understand you, when your schedule opens. But peace doesn't arrive. It's built, block by block, rule by rule, choice by choice. And if you're not actively building it, you're getting pulled further from it. You want peace? Then stop asking for it and start defending it. Peace isn't passive. It's strategic. It's not about lighting candles. It's about cutting cords. You don't find peace. You enforce it. And enforcing peace means making hard decisions, cutting off the people who drain your mental energy, turning down the invitation to emotional ping pong, not answering messages that come coated in guilt, saying no to good things that cost you clarity, walking away from noise that's disguised as support. You want to know why you're anxious? Because you keep granting access to your nervous system. You let people talk too long. You let them guilt you into just 5 minutes. You let their mood decide your morning. And then you call yourself drained. You're not drained. You're undisciplined with your peace. Here's the truth. The man who wants peace must become the man who protects it with military force. He doesn't negotiate it. He doesn't soften his standards. He doesn't hope they'll understand. He enforces silence. He moves things off his calendar with zero apology. He filters people like a fortress filters visitors. Entry by intent, not by history. You don't get peace by wishing. You get peace by building structure and then defending it like it's under siege. And it is. Every app, every opinion, every crisis that's urgent but not yours, every guilt trap wrapped in you've changed. All of it is noise. And noise doesn't stop. You cut it off or you drown. You're not losing your mind. You're just not protecting your space. Fix that. Start saying no without decorating it. Start putting your phone down like your future depends on it, because it does. Start leaving rooms where the topic is chaos and the tone is panic. Walk out. Walk away. Walk toward clarity, not comfort. You don't need everyone to be okay with your distance. You need to be okay with the silence that distance creates. That silence? That's peace. And it's yours, if you're willing to guard it like a gate, not a garden. So stop asking. Start guarding. Start deleting. Start deciding. And let the world call you cold, unavailable, too quiet, too distant. Because what you really are is untouchable. And that's what peace looks like now. Stop explaining discipline to the undisciplined. They don't get it. They won't get it. And they're not supposed to. You wake up early, they call it obsession. You plan your day, they call it control. You say no, they call you rigid. You work in silence, they call you antisocial. Why? Because your clarity threatens their comfort. Your discipline reminds them they've made excuses. Your structure exposes their chaos. Your commitment confronts their laziness. And people hate being reminded of what they avoid. So they attack it. They mock it. They minimize it. They act like your drive is extreme, not because it is, but because it makes them feel small by comparison. And here's your mistake. You keep trying to explain. You say things like, "It's just how I stay focused. I'm not judging anyone. This helps me stay grounded." Stop. You don't need to explain systems to people who live in reaction. You don't need to soften your rhythm to make them feel better about wasting time. You don't need to water down your standard so they'll stop rolling their eyes. You need to keep moving, because you don't owe them comfort. You owe them an example. You're not here to preach discipline. You're here to embody it. And embodiment speaks louder than any justification. They see your results. They feel your energy. They watch your consistency, even if they never admit it. That's the real message. Not your speech. Your presence. So stop explaining. You didn't build this routine to debate it. You didn't sacrifice comfort to seek validation. You didn't become sharp so dull minds could approve. You did it to win. To lead. To carry weight. To protect something sacred. And the people who get it, they don't need it explained. They recognize it. They feel it. They move with it. The rest? Let them judge. Let them gossip. Let them shrink away. Because when they call you obsessed, you're probably getting close. When they call you too strict, you're finally locked in. When they say you've changed, you've already leveled up. Take the signal. Don't waste it trying to be understood. Discipline isn't a brand. It's not a slogan. It's not aesthetics. It's what you do when no one claps. When no one texts. When no one says good job. And if you need applause to stay consistent. You're not disciplined. You're performing. The disciplined don't wait for nods. They nod to themselves. Once. Then move. Be that. Unreachable by distraction. Untouchable by opinion. Unshaken by weak minds projecting their guilt. And when someone asks, "Why are you so intense about this?" Don't explain. Don't justify. Don't soften. Just smile. Then go do it again. Because nothing says discipline louder than doing it again. Stop negotiating with the lazy you. You know exactly who he is. You hear him every morning. Every workout. Every time it's time to show up. He doesn't scream. He whispers. Take a rest. You deserve a break. 5 more minutes. Let's start tomorrow. He sounds like comfort. But he's a killer. He kills your potential with logic. He kills your momentum with softness. He kills your edge with phrases like, "You've done enough. You're tired. Be kind to yourself." And worst of all, he's convincing. He uses your own thoughts to slow you down. He hijacks your language. He dresses up weakness as wisdom. And you listen. You argue. You debate. You try to justify why today still matters. And that's your mistake. Because the moment you negotiate, you've already lost. Discipline is not a debate. It's a contract. Signed once, reinforced daily. But you keep renegotiating it. You keep amending the terms. You keep bending the rules every time he shows up with a tired voice and a soft tone. You're not losing to the world. You're losing to the version of you that's mastered the art of excuses. You know what needs to be done. But instead of doing it, you open a discussion. And every discussion ends the same. You delay. You adjust. You accept less. And that less becomes your new normal. Until one day, you look in the mirror and realize, you're not tired, you're undisciplined. You're not stuck, you're too polite with your weaker self. So here's what needs to change. No more conversations. No more maybe later. No more internal vote. This isn't a democracy. It's a command structure. You lead. He obeys. You don't ask him how he feels. You tell him where to go. You treat that lazy version of you like an enemy inside the walls. And you neutralize him fast. Because if you don't, he builds a case. He gathers evidence. He stacks emotion on top of convenience. Until you believe him. And when that happens, you shrink. You become soft. You lose credibility with yourself. You break the trust you built through action. So from now on, silence him. Don't answer his questions. Don't acknowledge his reasoning. Don't leave the door open for, "How do I feel?" Discipline isn't a mood. It's a mission. And missions are completed by soldiers. Not thinkers, not feelers, not waiters. Soldiers move when ordered. You give the order. No discussion. No delay. You already know what needs to be done. Do it. Before the lazy you has a chance to speak. Because he doesn't get a voice anymore. He had your ear for years. He spent it stealing time. Now he's dismissed. So every time you hear him start to talk, walk, move, act, win, and when he begs to be heard, say nothing. Because silence is how the strong respond to weakness. And execution is how they bury it. Stop explaining boundaries that should be obvious. You're not rude. You're not cold. You're not too much. You're just around people who expect unlimited access. And when you set a line, they panic. Because they're not used to people who enforce anything. They're used to convenience. To softness. To permission-based presence. To you saying yes just to avoid tension. And now that you say no, they don't ask what changed. They ask what's wrong with you. But here's the truth, nothing's wrong with you. You just stopped accepting behavior that was never okay to begin with. You stopped over-explaining your time. Stopped justifying your silence. Stopped apologizing for protecting your own space. And they don't like it, because your boundaries expose their entitlement. So they try to push. They try to guilt. They try to act confused. They'll say, "You used to be more flexible. You're different now." You're not as close as before. Good. Because before, you were available to nonsense. Before, you were negotiating your worth. Before, you were tolerating things that now feel disgusting to your nervous system. And the version of you who accepted all that, he's done. You're not explaining why your peace matters anymore. You're not providing a thesis on why rest is valid. You're not drafting long texts to justify saying, I'm not available this weekend. They either respect it or they don't belong, because boundaries don't need justification. They need enforcement. And if someone can't see the line, they're not blind, they're testing you. Every time you explain what should be obvious, you train people to ignore your first no, to push until you soften, to pretend your needs are negotiable. And you're done with that. You don't explain the basics anymore. You don't respond when you're in focus mode. You don't show up for last-minute drama. You don't pick up emotional trash for people who never carry your load. You don't talk about things that drain you just to keep the conversation going. And if that makes you distant, so be it. Distance is how discipline protects itself. Let people call you different. Let them gossip about how you've changed. Let them feel the wall they never noticed when they were walking all over you. That wall, that's called respect. And it's permanent now, because boundaries aren't up for discussion. They're non-refundable, non-negotiable, non-verbal if necessary. You show them once. You hold them always. And the people who belong in your life, they'll meet you there. No reminders. No convincing. No debates. You're not rude. You're clear. And if someone can't handle clarity, they don't belong near your energy. Let this be your rule. From now on, when someone crosses a line, you don't explain the line. You hold it. In silence. In action. Without flinching. Because your peace was never supposed to be easy to access. It was supposed to be earned and protected. And now it is. Stop submitting to your own history. You're not that version of you anymore. But you still obey his limits. You still let him speak through doubt. You still carry his shame like it's part of your identity. It's not. It's a weight you refuse to drop. Not because you need it, but because it's familiar. You built comfort around your scars. You memorized your failures like they define you. And now, you flinch before you even try. You hesitate at the edge of your own potential. You silence your drive with old stories. I've always struggled with this. I'm not the type who can. I've failed before, so stop. You're not a slave to that timeline. You're older now. Stronger now. Sharper now. More aware than ever. But none of that matters if you keep bowing to a version of you that no longer exists. Except in your excuses. Let's be clear, your past is not a prophecy. Your history is not a verdict. Your memory is not your master. So why do you keep acting like it is? You avoid challenges that remind you of old pain. You dim your ambition so you don't feel unrealistic. You lower your standards to avoid repeating failure. And all you're doing is building a new life on old ruins. But you're not ruins. You're raw material. You're steel forged in pressure. And the version of you that couldn't had to exist. So this version of you would rise. But he's gone now. He served his purpose. And now he's dismissed. You're not here to submit to who you were. You're here to become what you were too afraid to imagine back then. Yes, you've failed. Yes, you've quit. Yes, you've played small. But that doesn't mean you stay there. You don't owe the past your loyalty. You owe the future your discipline. And the future doesn't care about your old patterns. It only responds to your current pace. So pick it up. Stop rehearsing who you were. Stop warning people with old labels like, I'm just not good at that. Stop bending to memories of pain that don't match your capacity anymore. They say healing means going back to the wounded part. But sometimes it means walking away. With your chest up, your mind focused, and your back turned for good. You're not betraying your story. You're building the version of it that was always supposed to happen. But only once you got tired of dragging the first chapter like a chain. So let it go. The old you doesn't get to vote on what happens next. He can't sit at this table. He can't guide your goals. He can't shape your schedule. He already had his shot. And you survived him. Now it's your turn. So from this day forward, no more bending to old labels. No more accepting limits you outgrew. No more bowing to pain you've already processed. You don't submit to history. You build over it. And this time, you build like someone who remembers. But doesn't obey. Stop performing for approval you don't respect. You adjust your tone. You shape your words. You filter your fire. All for people whose lives you wouldn't trade places with. Think about that. You're building your life around being accepted. By people you wouldn't follow for 5 minutes. People who haven't earned your attention, but still influence your direction. Why? Because deep down, you still think being liked equals being safe. Being approved means being worthy. Being validated means being right. It doesn't. Approval is cheap. It's noisy. It's unpredictable. And if you chase it, you become something disposable. You wear masks that never fit. You say yes when you mean no. You dilute your vision so nobody feels threatened. And for what? Likes, claps, polite nods from people who don't live with the weight you carry. They don't know your mission. They don't pay your price. They don't bleed when you break. So why do they get a vote? Let me be clear. If their life isn't something you'd trade for, then their opinion should never outrank your instincts. But right now it does. You hold back your pace. You quiet your intensity. You soften your vision, just to avoid offending people who aren't even building anything real. You're not gaining respect. You're buying silence. You're trading your edge for peace. But it's not peace, it's postponement. Because the longer you perform for people you don't admire, the more you lose your identity. You forget your rhythm. You compromise your focus. You start chasing reactions instead of results. And when that becomes a habit, you start needing them. You start depending on external noise to confirm your value. You build your routine around applause. And the moment it stops, you collapse. That's not power. That's dependency. And you're done with that. From now on, you stop performing. You stop explaining. You stop building your message to match their attention span. You build what matters. You move with weight. You speak only when it sharpens, not when it entertains. You raise your standard to a level where weak eyes won't follow. And when they say, "You've changed. You used to be more fun. You're intense these days," just smile. Because you are intense. Because you did change. Because the old version of you was too polite to be powerful. Now you're here to lead. And leaders don't perform. They build. Let others chase applause. You chase alignment. Let others beg for feedback. You stay focused on what's real. And the next time you feel tempted to explain your energy, your focus, your pace, remember this: you're not here for cheap approval. You're here to become undeniable. And that starts by making peace with not being liked. By the very people you wouldn't follow anyway. Stop asking the world to go slower. It won't. It's not supposed to. It's not here to wait for your energy to align. It's not designed to pause until you feel ready. The world is fast, chaotic, unapologetic, and it keeps moving, with or without you. You have 2 options: fall behind and complain about it, or pick up the pace and outgrow it. But most men choose a third path. They beg the world to slow down. They say things like, "Everything's so rushed. I need more time. Why does it feel like I'm always behind?" Here's why. Because you're still moving like someone waiting for permission. Still structuring your life like someone hoping for comfort. Still blaming pace instead of fixing rhythm. You want the world to slow down. Then you haven't accepted the truth. You don't need it slower. You need to move sharper. Because speed is not the enemy. Lack of direction is. It's not that things are happening too fast. It's that you're unorganized. You're reactive. You're overstimulated and underdisciplined. Your calendar is chaos. Your phone is open 24/7. Your mornings have no anchor. And your evenings are full of regret. That's not a fast world. That's a slow man trying to catch wind with a plastic bag. So what do? You stop trying to control the pace. And you start mastering the flow. You become the kind of man who rises before the noise. Who moves before the market opens. Who finishes before others start. Who trains when others scroll. Who plans in silence and executes in rhythm. You stop being surprised by pressure and start expecting it, because once you move with discipline, speed becomes an advantage. The world moves fast. Good. Then most people will fail to focus, and that's your opening. Everyone's distracted. Perfect. You'll stand out just by being still, sharp, consistent. This is how you win. You don't beg the game to get easier. You study it. Master it. Outrun the lazy. Outfocus the busy. Outlast the loud. You don't cry about timing. You become so prepared that the timing cries for you. So from now on, No more waiting for better circumstances. No more blaming the system. No more slowing your pace to match people who've given up already. Let them fall behind. Let them drown in noise. Let them collapse under the same pressure you use as fuel. Because fast doesn't mean frantic. It means focused. It means precise. It means mission first, noise later. The world won't slow down. So stop asking. Start matching. Then surpass it. And when it speeds up again, smile. Because this time, you're already ahead. Stop asking the world to go slower. It won't. It's not supposed to. It's not here to wait for your energy to align. It's not designed to pause until you feel ready. The world is fast, chaotic, unapologetic, and it keeps moving with or without you. You have two options: fall behind and complain about it, or pick up the pace and outgrow it. But most men choose a third path. They beg the world to slow down. They say things like, "Everything's so rushed. I need more time. Why does it feel like I'm always behind?" Here's why. Because you're still moving like someone waiting for permission. Still structuring your life like someone hoping for comfort. Still blaming pace instead of fixing rhythm. You want the world to slow down. Then you haven't accepted the truth. You don't need it slower. You need to move sharper. Because speed is not the enemy. Lack of direction is. It's not that things are happening too fast. It's that you're unorganized. You're reactive. You're overstimulated and underdisciplined. Your calendar is chaos. Your phone is open 24/7. Your mornings have no anchor. And your evenings are full of regret. That's not a fast world. That's a slow man trying to catch wind with a plastic bag. So what do? You stop trying to control the pace. And you start mastering the flow. You become the kind of man who rises before the noise. Who moves before the market opens. Who finishes before others start. Who trains when others scroll. Who plans in silence and executes in rhythm. You stop being surprised by pressure and start expecting it, because once you move with discipline, speed becomes an advantage. The world moves fast. Good. Then most people will fail to focus, and that's your opening. Everyone's distracted. Perfect. You'll stand out just by being still, sharp, consistent. This is how you win. You don't beg the game to get easier. You study it. Master it. Outrun the lazy. Outfocus the busy. Outlast the loud. You don't cry about timing. You become so prepared that the timing cries for you. So from now on, no more waiting for better circumstances. No more blaming the system. No more slowing your pace to match people who've given up already. Let them fall behind. Let them drown in noise. Let them collapse under the same pressure you use as fuel. Because fast doesn't mean frantic. It means focused. It means precise. It means mission first, noise later. The world won't slow down. So stop asking. Start matching. Then surpass it. And when it speeds up again, smile. Because this time, you're already ahead. Stop explaining why you're not available for chaos. You don't owe anyone a reason. Not for your silence. Not for your withdrawal. Not for your absence from places that drain you. You're not mean. You're not bitter. You're not too intense. You're strategic. You realize that chaos is addictive. And you stopped using it. You stopped needing drama to feel alive. Stopped needing distraction to avoid discomfort. Stopped needing noise to fill the gaps you were too scared to face in silence. Now, you don't reply to the group chat right away. You don't answer calls that smell like panic. You don't jump into emotional fire drills that have nothing to do with you. And because of that, you're free. But freedom has a cost. You become invisible to people addicted to urgency. You become arrogant to people who thrive on chaos. You become different to people who can't sit with themselves for 5 minutes. Let them call you whatever they want. They're still running laps in circles. Still caught in drama loops. Still feeding the beast of validation and gossip and commentary and overreaction. You've unplugged. You've chosen control over adrenaline. Pace over panic. Clarity over connection with chaos. And no, you don't need to explain that. You don't need to write long texts about needing space. You don't need to draft disclaimers about focusing on yourself. You don't need to prepare speeches about still being here, but enough. Your absence is not a riddle. Your silence is not hostility. Your focus is not an insult. It's a choice. A clean one. A final one. You don't show up for noise anymore. You don't rearrange your piece for people who've built their identity around instability. You don't get pulled into chaos just because someone else refuses to heal. Because every time you explain why you're not participating, you give chaos attention. You treat confusion like it deserves a conference. It doesn't. It deserves silence, distance, boundaries, a closed door. So from now on, that's your policy. No explanations. No overcommunication. No re-entry into fires you didn't start. Let people feel what they need to feel. Let them write whatever story helps them sleep. Let them gossip about your discipline because it exposes their disorder. But you stay out. Stay clean. Stay focused, no matter how loud the chaos gets. You don't respond, because that's what real control looks like. Not louder, not stronger, not more aggressive, just unavailable, completely, permanently, peacefully. Let chaos scream. You don't speak its language anymore. Stop building soft habits that can't survive pressure. Anyone can meditate in silence. Anyone can journal on a Sunday. Anyone can visualize success with candles, playlists, and comfort. But can you stay calm? When the deadline's in 3 hours, can you hold your routine? When sleep was short and your phone won't stop buzzing, can you stay on mission? When life punches you in the throat, that's the test. Not your routine on a perfect day, but your execution under pressure. Because your habits are only as strong as the storm they survive. But here's what most men do. They build comfort-based systems. They track everything until stress hits. They eat clean until travel happens. They train hard until their mood shifts. They wake up early until one late night throws it all off. And just like that, they reset, reroute, rebuild, again, and again, and again. That's not structure. That's emotional dependency dressed up as discipline. Because real habits don't collapse under pressure. They're built because of pressure. Discipline isn't a spa. It's a weapon, and your habits are supposed to be forged in chaos. Not shaped by comfort. You should be able to execute when you're tired. Perform when you're uncertain. Show up when nobody's watching. And finish when nobody cares. Because that's how you become unshakable. You don't need perfect conditions. You need default patterns. Not wake up early if I slept well. Wake up early because that's who I am. Not train if I'm motivated. Train because I don't negotiate with weakness. Not journal when I'm inspired. Journal because reflection isn't optional, it's survival. Your routines should not depend on mood. They should override it. Because pressure doesn't break real men. It reveals them. And if your habits break under pressure, you never had them to begin with. So here's the new rule. Build systems that hold under fire. Build routines that don't ask how you feel. Build a foundation that stays unshaken, even when everything above it trembles. You don't prepare for perfect days. You prepare for impact, for stress, for chaos, for uncertainty. And your habits? They need to be bulletproof. Cold, repeatable, sharp, not inspirational, not fancy, not curated for Instagram, built for war. Because when life hits you, and it will, you don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. And if those systems are soft, so are you. So build harder, build colder, build habits that don't care about how you feel. Because pressure is coming, and only the sharp survive it. Stop romanticizing the version of you that was always available. He wasn't kind. He wasn't noble. He wasn't better with people. He was just lost. No direction. No mission. No urgency. Just time and the fear of being forgotten. So you filled it. You replied to every message. Showed up to every invite. Said yes to every favor. Kept your calendar open just in case someone needed you. And you called it loyalty. But what it really was avoidance. Avoidance of your own path. Avoidance of silence. Avoidance of responsibility. Because when you're always available, you never have to look at the scoreboard. You just stay busy. Useful. Wanted. But never powerful. Power requires saying no. Discipline requires closing doors. Purpose demands that you become unavailable. And now that you are, now that you don't answer every ping, now that you don't explain every absence, now that you protect your time like it matters, they call you selfish, arrogant, not like you used to be. Good. That old version of you wasn't working. He bled energy into people who never bled for him. He paused momentum for people who never showed up. He carried guilt for things that weren't even his. Now, you carry clarity. You move with force. You invest your hours where they multiply, not where they evaporate. And that's the difference. You're not cold. You're calculated, not distant. Directed, not rude. Reserved, because your energy is sacred now. So stop missing the man who said yes to everything. He wasn't wise. He was wounded. And stop apologizing for the man you've become. He's not harder, he's sharper. Not bitter, just precise. Not isolated, just focused on something bigger than pleasing everyone. Because the truth, you were never supposed to be that available. Not if you had a mission. Not if you had standards. Not if you respected your own time. You were just raised to believe that saying no meant you were cold. That choosing yourself meant you were selfish. That protecting your calendar meant you thought you were better. Now you know better. Now you're building something. And builders don't have time for guilt trips. They don't have time for, how come you didn't reply? They don't have time for, you used to be more fun. That's right. Used to be. Before you became someone who lives by design, not default. So here's the line. You don't owe the old version of you a comeback. You don't owe the crowd an explanation. You don't owe guilt any more of your schedule. Let the past version of you rest. He helped you survive. Now you build. In silence. In discipline. In forward motion. And when someone says, I miss the old you, just nod. And keep walking. Stop holding back the man you were meant to become. He's not coming by accident. He's not going to show up one morning fully formed. He's not buried in some book, retreat, or weekend away. He's waiting on one thing, for you to stop pretending you're not him. Because you are. You always were. You just forgot. Forgot how to move without second guessing. Forgot how to speak without shrinking. Forgot how to build without asking for permission. You made fear look responsible. You made hesitation look mature. You made delay look like planning. But now you've run out of excuses. The world doesn't need another hesitant man. It doesn't need more thinkers, feelers, dreamers. It needs fire. Action. Conviction. And it's your turn. Your turn to stop tiptoeing around your own potential. To stop checking mirrors to see who approves. To stop carrying the emotional debt of everyone who quit around you. This is your life. Not your father's. Not your critics. Not your past selves. Yours. And if you don't take it, someone weaker will. Someone with less discipline. Less pain tolerance. Less soul. And they'll build something louder, not better, but louder. And the world will follow them. Because you were too polite to lead. That ends today. No more holding back. No more waiting to feel ready. No more performing restraint for people who stopped growing years ago. You know what you want. You know what it takes. You know who you'd have to become. So become him. Wake up. Train. Build. Earn. Refine. Speak. Protect. Lead. And do it all without asking the world for applause. You're not a child anymore. You don't need validation. You need results. Because results change families. Results build nations. Results write history. And the man you were meant to be. He's not soft. Not lost. Not passive. He's forged. In silence. In repetition. In choices no one clapped for. And if you want to meet him, you know exactly what to do. So don't ask for directions. Move. And the next time life asks you, who do you think you are? You look it dead in the eye and say, I'm him. Then show it. Every day. Until there's no version of you left. That doesn't command the room.
If this cut through the noise, don't like, don't clap, don't comment, just return. When the silence gets loud again, we'll be here, sharpened, ready.